what really makes a UK trip work. In this episode, Amy shares the choices that shaped her trip, where she stayed, how she got around, and the experiences that made it so special.
Welcome to the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Your host is the founder of the UK Travel Planning website, Tracy Collins. Each week, Tracy shares destination guides, travel tips and itinerary ideas, as well as interviews with a variety of guests who share their knowledge and experience of UK travel to help you plan your perfect UK vacation. Join us as we explore the UK from cosmopolitan cities to quaint villages, from historic castles to beautiful islands, and from the picturesque countryside to seaside towns.
Before we get started, we'd like to thank our sponsor, Walks and Devour Tours. If you're planning a trip to London, you'll already know the challenge. There's a lot you want to do and only a limited amount of time to fit it all in. That's where the right tour makes all the difference, because you want experiences that are the best use of your time, with more access, less waiting and a deeper sense of the city. That's why we recommend Walks and Devour Tours. They offer walking tours and food tours designed to make your time count, often with early or after hours entry. You'll also be with exceptional local guides who add the stories and context, so you leave with a richer understanding of what you're seeing and a trip that feels genuinely memorable. If you're visiting London as a couple, with family, or you simply prefer a more intimate experience, Walks and Devour Tours also offer private tour options. To learn more, you'll find the link in the show notes. Now let's get into this week's episode. Hi and welcome to this week's episode of the UK Travel Planning Podcast. Now today I'm sharing our first trip report of the year, and I'm chatting with Amy about her mother-daughter trip to London and Edinburgh, from how she planned it and to the experiences that stood out the most. So we're going to cover choosing the right area to stay in London, travelling by train, fitting in tours and food experiences, and how those choices influenced the overall trip. Now let's get into the conversation. Well, I'm actually really excited to say, Amy, that this is the first trip report of 2026. Now, I know you did the trip last year, and we've been chatting for ages about having you on the podcast to do it. First of all, I actually want to say a huge, huge thank you to you, actually, because you are one of our podcast sponsors, and I can't tell you how much Doug and I appreciate how much you support what we do. And the reason I say that is we have about 8 people only who support us. We have thousands of people who listen to this podcast every month. We get tons of emails from people going, "We love your podcast. It helped us so much with our trip," which is lovely. And the words are really lovely, but it's just nice when people like yourself kind of go, "We recognize the value of what you did and how much it helped us, and that you provide us that support." So that's actually a heartfelt thanks from myself and Doug for doing that.
You guys gave us resources for an absolutely phenomenal trip. I'd have never been able to do it without them.
Well, it means the world. So I wanted to start off by saying that because it's important, and it's important for us. Anyway, I've got that. I've said the thank you, and which we really, really appreciate. But now let's get to the nitty-gritty of your trip. So Amy, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from, and tell us a bit about who you went on the trip with, and for how long, and where you went. Give us the whole spiel. Tell us what you did. I'm really excited to hear.
My name is Amy Bowers. I'm a nurse at the Veterans Hospital in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And I went on the trip with my daughter, Elizabeth, one of my 2 grown daughters. I take turns doing things with the 2 of them. She let me do 90% of the planning. I did skip things like the Churchill War Rooms because I knew that there was absolutely no appeal there. When the girls were young, like 2nd through 5th grade, we actually lived in Vienna, Austria. So they're good little travelers. They've seen, I think, 46 castles and countless churches. But we had been to Scotland twice when they were young. We've been to Ireland. We had a 9-hour layover in London, and I knew I wanted more time in London. We were there it was a 2-week trip. We did 4 days in the middle in Edinburgh, which we had been to once before, but briefly. And I came up with an enormous list of things I wanted to see in London. And then I grouped them by location using one of your maps. And then we decided what was doable, what wasn't. I still put more on the schedule than was doable. We did what we could.
I do that every time, Amy. I'm always saying to people not to do it. And guess what? I do. It's just because we get so enthusiastic about thinking, I really want to see this. And then you kind of realize that it's actually not doable. But, putting it in there and giving it a go sometimes. And then you've got that flexibility. So.
We were very happy with everything we did. And I have a to-do list for next time. And I might someday be brave enough to go on my own. But we stayed I like having a home base, and I picked South Kensington for a hotel there. And I think that was a brilliant move because we both got sick during the trip. When we got home, we found out it was COVID. We pushed through to the best of our abilities, but there were days where we just really couldn't go on anymore. We were right across the street from Kensington Gardens. So we weren't feeling great. We'd rest, but we'd go over. And I have to tell you that one of the highlights of our trip was feeding the squirrels and the birds. And we must have done it 5 times. They would actually take peanuts right out of your hand.
They're very cute.
So if you're not, we may have hidden the signs that said, please don't feed the animals a few times so they didn't ruin our pictures. We verified it wasn't a law. It was just a request.
You know what? I think that's more about the pigeons, but don't quote me on that either, because I think they're a bit of vermin. Now, I don't know if you know the difference in the UK between the 2 types of squirrels. So we have the grey squirrel who's come in and they kind of just decimated our native red squirrels. So I know there are pockets of red squirrels all over the UK, but I think probably it was in London, it was probably the grey squirrels, but they're still cute. But we also have a little native a British squirrel, and it's red and it's tiny. It's a cute little thing. So that's possibly why. Also, because I guess they're not as popular with Londoners probably as much as visitors, but they are cute.
We did see lots of Londoners feeding them, which is why we were brave enough to do it ourselves.
Well, I guess, some people love squirrels, some people love pigeons. And, I think squirrels are very cute. Pigeons I'm not so keen on, but.
We mostly chased off the pigeons. We kept hearing the parakeets, but we had trouble finding them because of the same color as the trees. And when I finally found the first one, it was hanging upside down. So I'd been looking for the wrong profile. But my daughter actually got one to eat out of her hand with much patience.
Yeah, people don't expect to see parakeets in London, but yes, there are lots of parakeets, wild. People, I assume, just let them out of cages or pets, and now there's just huge flocks of parakeets, which is very strange. When I stay at my friend's house in South London, and often I'll wake up and all I hear is parakeets, and I'm like, am I back in Australia? Yeah, very very strange. Not necessarily what you expect.
I researched it, and they believe that it started, they were filming African Queen at the Serpentine, and they think that a bunch of them got out, and London is temperate enough that they just survived and went crazy.
They absolutely do. So you were spending time in London, then you went up to Edinburgh for a few days, and you came back to London. So that's basically your itinerary.
Yeah, we took the train to Edinburgh for the middle.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. So when you were in London, I guess you used the tube, buses to get around. Obviously, a lot of walking. There's so much walking to do. And then you took the train. How was the train up to Edinburgh?
The train was lovely. We did the first class carriage. We had done the Cotswolds tour the day before, and it was nice to have just time to sit and relax on the train. And I had considered flying, but by the time you factor in the time to and from airports, and it's not shorter.
No, you don't see anything on the airplane, do you? At least when you're on the train, you get to see a lot of the English countryside.
The view was beautiful, and it was a lovely trip. But my goal was to see lots of the parks. The day we walked the most was 13 miles. We took the tube to Westminster and got off, and we walked back. From there, we actually got to see them filming. I don't know if it was Pride and Prejudice again, but it was along those lines. So we're walking down the street, and there are all these people in period costumes and horses standing in the street, and we were a little bit confused. We wandered our way back to St. James Park, and we started that there, and we walked like the full loop. That was probably my favorite of the most beautiful of the parks.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Pelicans were a highlight, the swans. We made our way from St. James to Green Park, and then trying to get from Green Park to Hyde Park, we got caught in the middle of the changing of the guard, which was not on the plan for that day. But we were told that we were going to watch it whether we liked it or not. So we were able to scratch that off the itinerary.
I guess you weren't allowed to cross roads and stuff because they do
No.
kind of, they get a bit strict.
Here you are. You're like, okay, here we are. We made it to Hyde Park. We felt like we'd won a victory. We walked through Hyde Park and got to enjoy the Rose Garden and walk the length of it until we hit the Royal Albert Memorial, which was like a block from our hotel. And then we had to walk as quickly as we could through some lovely little parks to get to Knightsbridge because we had a Sunday roast booked for that day, at Hawksmoor, which is absolutely fantastic. And from there, we braved Harrods, which is not my favorite place. I liked the toy department. I liked the gift shop. Everything else was very crowded and very heavily fragranced. And I couldn't get out fast enough.
Yeah, a lot of people mention or ask about going to Harrods, and I like going to the food halls because they're very pretty and the food's amazing, but they are so busy. I don't particularly like I never have since I was a child. I've never liked department stores because you walk in, usually it's a perfume department, and it's like, oh no, overload, sensory overload. I just can't deal with it. But I tend to say to people, if it's during the summer, not to go to Harrods because it can get incredibly busy and uncomfortable. But the food halls are, the food that you can buy, it's expensive, but it's amazing. And the toy department is also really cool.
We had just eaten at Hawksmoor, so the food department held no interest for us. One of the things I wanted to see most was the Egyptian elevators. And it took us a while wandering through the store to find the middle of the store, to find the escalators. And then we rode all the way down and all the way back up. And then I enjoyed their gift shop. And then we escaped and went back to the hotel. But we had when we bought the tickets, I bought the tickets in October of the year before. I started listening to your podcasts in August and making my wish list. And we bought the tickets in October. We were planning on getting late in the evening. And then about 6 months in, they changed our flight and we got in 10 hours earlier than we'd planned. So we got there and dropped our stuff at the hotel. And we did XSFA was the best choice in the world. This was not an economy trip for us. We flew upper class with Virgin Atlantic. They let you bring person can bring 3 70-pound suitcases. I think we did that between the two of us. So it was not something we would have been able to do on a subway or in a taxi. But I wanted to see Temple Church, and I was looking at the hours they're open, and they're only open during the week, during the day. And the way our schedule was set up, we were there in London mostly weekends. So we went straight to Temple Church, and we walked the gardens, and we went to Twinings, and my daughter hated me just a little bit because she did not sleep at all on the plane. And I kept saying, nope, we're already on this side of town. We're staying here. We had reservations made for the cheese, the pick and cheese.
Pick and cheese, my favorite. Another one. It's all food. Have you noticed? Yeah, pick and cheese is amazing.
It was so much fun. And I have a friend whose daughter lives in London. She met us there for dinner. So we got to meet her and have dinner with her. And then she was our first introduction to the tube. She got us, walking from Temple Gardens trying to find Pick and Cheese. We walked 7 dials like 30 times, walking in circles, ending up in the same place in a drizzle. Everybody we asked had no idea what we were talking about. Finally, I found Humble Crumble, and I knew where it was in relation to Humble Crumble. Because we kept saying, it's the place with the giant bananas. And no help. But then she got us back. She got us back to our hotel, and our hotel was halfway between 2 subway stations. And the one they claimed they're closest to, I wasn't crazy about, but it was equidistant to South Kensington Station, which is lovely. And the walk from the hotel to South Kensington Station was past all the museums. So Why walk down the street in a business area if you can be walking past the V&A?
Except I can't walk past it without there's a magnetic force that pulls me in, so I can never walk past it very easily. It's it's an area that I'm planning to stay in when I'm back in London. I try to stay in different areas every time I'm back, and South Kensington is the area that I've picked for this trip to spend some time. Doug says it's very... Yeah, Doug says it's very dangerous because he said you'll be too close to the V&A, I'll never see you. But yeah, it is a good area to choose, and you're very, as you say, very close to park, very close to museums. They've got tube stations there, so it's really good. I'm just going to shoot back, just to ask you a little bit when you were creating your itinerary, because you very kindly mentioned the podcast. So was that the podcast your primary kind of go-to from our resources that you use to help you?
Absolutely. I started listening, and I had a trip to Egypt planned with my older daughter, and that got canceled, which then made my trip with my younger daughter, which we had been planning on Scotland, get bumped up. And then I started listening to your podcast, and although I still wanted to go to Scotland, I wanted more time in London. So I started using the podcast and making lists of things I wanted to see, things I wanted to do. I checked out all your online resources, got the ebooks, all the train resources, and we just started piecing things together. I'm a little old-fashioned. I started out with an actual map and little sticky dots and numbered them, and then determined what was in an area and what we could do in the same day. That's
a good idea. It's a sensible approach. It really is. Otherwise, you could just be crossing, especially London. You just be here, there, and everywhere, and wasting your time kind of crossing over London to get from place to place. So it's a good strategy.
And we did end up with more taxis and Ubers, Lyfts than we did the Tube. The Tube was on strike the last several days we were there. But my daughter, the day that we went to Westminster and then walked all the way back to Kensington with the detour to Knightsbridge, we walked almost 14 miles that day. She ended up with horrible blisters.
Oh, no.
And it was the best sport ever. But I figured if we minimized the walking to get to the places we were going, then she'd have the energy to do the things that we wanted to do there. So I totaled it up when we got home, and it was just an obscene amount of money for Uber and Lyft. And then the last few days, there was really no other option with I thought we were going to get run down by bicycles when the Tube was on strike. It was dreadful. But we had planned on getting in late at night on Thursday, so I had planned a bus trip for the next day, a coach tour, because I knew I wasn't going to be up to thinking clearly. And through one of your affiliates, we booked a golden tour to Hampton Court Palace and Windsor. And I'd never seen Hampton Court Palace. And we ahead of time ordered all of the tour guides for the places we were going, so I could, because I knew otherwise I'd be carrying them around Europe with me. That way I was able to read them all before we went. And I was able to give her the tour of Hampton Court Palace. I was like, oh, this is this. That means if we turn right here, we're going to get to the passage for the chapel. And it's unique from all of the other castles because you have wings from different eras, which you don't typically see. So it was really neat to be able to go from the Tudor to the Regency period and walk through that. And it had been raining when we got there, and it stopped just as we got there. In the gardens, there was a huge puddle blocking the entrance. Well, I decided I was going to squeeze around it. She and I had the gardens for the first 45 minutes all to ourselves. Beautiful pictures.
Perfect.
And then we did that, and the tour guide Tish was absolutely lovely. We had our time at Hampton Court, and then we took the bus to Windsor, and we enjoyed walking through Windsor, and we happened into a changing of the guard there that wasn't planned either. We weren't allowed to leave because of that one. And then we spent a little time in the town of Windsor I think I ate more pastries there than I have my entire life put together, because there were pastry shops everywhere. And we took advantage of the Victoria and Albert being open until 10 that night. So when we got back to our hotel at 5, we changed and walked over to the V&A. We had dinner there in that lovely Art Deco cafeteria.
Isn't it beautiful?
It is beautiful. And for Doug, we tried Victoria Sponge. We tried it 3 times, and either we got it bad 3 times, or Doug has very odd taste.
I'll tell him it's not my favourite, but he absolutely, that's for him. A cup of tea and a Victoria sponge. Let's talk about then some of because you did a lot of stuff, and I'm sure you had a lot of favourite things. So otherwise, I know we could probably talk for about 2 weeks about all the stuff you did, because you did a really good trip. You had a lot in it. So what were your favourite experiences and your favourite places that you visited in London or Edinburgh?
In London, I absolutely loved going to Hampton Court Palace just outside of London. It was, like I said, it's different than anything we'd done even while we were living in Europe. But the closing ceremony at the Tower was, I am so glad that we listened to you on that. It was the neatest thing I've ever done. We got there on a weird night. They had some special bigwigs there, and they actually forgot our tour group. We stood out there for like a half hour waiting. And finally, so we got to work with two different human warders, because one of them, who'd never done it before, came up and said, this has never happened before. I don't know what to do. He said, I think I'm just going to walk around and tell you stuff. And we're like, yeah, we're all good with that. That's what we thought we were getting. And we had quite a bit of time with him, and they felt bad. So they actually put us in like the best position humanly possible for the ceremony, which bumped the rich people off away, because they were the reason that we had gotten missed out on. But because of that, then we actually got to work with another one of the human warders later. So we got to hear stories from both. They let us stay quite a bit after closing before they saw us out to make up for the time difference. And I think it made it more special. We fell in love with a little cat. I think we have more pictures of the cat walking through the poppies than we do for itself. But it was an incredibly unique experience, and it made the trip.
It is. It's really special. And, I guess people know, if you listen to the podcast, there's a couple of things, the V&A that I love. And I love the Ceremony of the Keys. And whenever I talk to Walks and Devour Tours about it, they know that that's the one that I love all the tours. But that one, I just think you feel that you're part of history, and your name goes down. You have to give your name because it goes down in a book. And because that ceremony's been going on for hundreds and hundreds of years, exactly the same ceremony done night after night after night after night. I just feel that being kind of experiencing that sense of history and being part of it is really special. And also the opportunity, which you don't get during the day if you go when it's really, really busy. Even if you get the free Yeoman Warder tour, you don't get the opportunity to do what you can do at that evening. So we can ask them all sorts of questions.
Yeah.
And it's really cool.
Yeah. Lots of chit chat. And they were telling us stories, and they were showing us like videos on their phones. But it was just absolutely fantastic. I would do it again. And I don't like huge crowds, so I'm usually at something the minute it opens. And neither my daughter or I are crown jewels type girls, so that wasn't the priority to us. So when we got the opportunity to still see the Tower, but to see it at night when it wasn't crowded, was absolutely phenomenal. We went to museums when we could, when they were open late at night, because they were less busy. I could live in the casting courts at the V&A. That was...
Just a quick pause to thank our sponsor, Walks and Devour Tours. If you're planning a trip to London, you'll already know the challenge. There's a lot you want to do and only a limited amount of time to fit it all in. That's where the right tour makes all the difference, because you want experiences that are the best use of your time, with more access, less waiting, and a deeper sense of the city. That's why we recommend Walks and Devour Tours. They offer walking tours and food tours designed to make your time count, often with early or after hours entry. You'll also be with exceptional local guides who add the stories and context, so you leave with a richer understanding of what you're seeing and a trip that feels genuinely memorable. If you're visiting London as a couple, with family, or you simply prefer a more intimate experience, Walks and Devour Tours also offer private tour options. To learn more, you'll find the link in the show notes. Aren't they? I literally, I know I've said this again numerous times, but I can sit in those cascoats for hours. And I just take it all in. Isn't it just spectacular?
Phenomenal.
I just love them. I think, you can travel around the world and see treasures from the world, around the world that we haven't stolen, which is also refreshing.
Yeah, that's nice.
And that we just did copies of in the Victorian era, and it's just absolutely fabulous. And
I thought the siblings were very funny.
Yes.
I have a picture of that. But I tell my daughters, like, Tracy said we need to go to the basement. And she's like, okay. She was right about the Tower of London. So we went to the basement. And since we were staying in that area when I wasn't feeling well, she was able to just wander back over to the V&A and explore some more. Lots of museums. We managed to fit in. We went to the Tate Modern briefly. If I had realized that the Impressionists were there, we would have spent more time there. I'm not a real modern art aficionado, but we had started at Borough Market that morning, and then we walked along the river, and then I wanted to go across the Millennium Bridge and come up looking at St. Paul's. So we basically used the Tate Modern as a 20-minute visit and a potty stop before we went on our way. But she wanted to see the painting of Ophelia, which she thought was there. I was like, no, that's Tate Britain. So we walked across the Millennium Bridge from there, and we circled St. Paul. We didn't tour the inside. Then we found the subway, which I was very proud of myself because there were actually transfers involved, and took that to the Tate Britain, and that is phenomenal. The building itself is beautiful, and the paintings. I'm now in love with John Singer Sargent.
Oh,
so
okay.
We got to do that, and then we went to a nighttime opening of the National Gallery in London. And again, the Impressionists were our goal there. We went to the National Gallery in Scotland and the Museum of Scotland. She was not feeling well. We got back from Scotland on Friday afternoon, and my plan was, I don't think she had any idea what was in the National Gallery in London as far as the Impressionists were. And she wasn't feeling well, and she's like, let's just wait. And I was nagging her, and I know I was driving her crazy. When she got into the Impressionist galleries, I think she understood why I was
why you wanted to go.
And I mean, the whole museum's phenomenal. I wanted to hunt down Da Vinci. I needed to see Da Vinci, but most of what we wanted to see was the Impressionists. They're just stunning, and there's numerous paintings there.
And the other thing about the museums, because we've actually just done a podcast about our favourite museums in London, and a lot of the museums in London are free as well, which often people don't realise. So you can go in and out when you want and wander around, see bits of them, and so you don't have to pay. If it's busy, like I say, if it's a weekend and it's a rainy weekend and the kids are off school and school holidays, then you might want to get a slot for something like the Natural History Museum. But generally, you're absolutely fine. British Museum can get very, very busy as well. But they're all free, so it's just pitch up and go and enjoy it. Just don't do too many in one day. That's what I always say to people. I try to do the V&A, the Science Museum, and then the Natural History Museum in one day, and I was like, no, I just couldn't physically do it. I was like, no, it was too much. So I'll be doing a bit not more. Now, I just have to ask you though, because you're a nurse, did you make it to the Florence Nightingale?
I did not. It would have been taking time away from the way our plans were set from the Tate Britain, and I knew she'd enjoy that so much more. They actually, in the Museum of Scotland, they actually have a nice selection of medical history items, which was really neat to see. And that was. I don't think we did 2 museums in a day, other than the brief stint in the Tate Modern and then Tate Britain.
Yeah,
I tried. Yeah. It was a one-a-day thing, and I had wanted to fit Kensington Palace in while we weren't feeling well. And that was when she's like, Mama, I don't want to go to another palace.
Yeah, you can get a bit castle and palace fatigue and cathedral fatigue after a while, because there's just so many. And I've heard that from people who have visited Italy as well. I always hear that for Italy, saying, I just couldn't do another church. But yes, in the UK, it's definitely castles and palaces can get a bit like, oh, not another one.
We love St. Giles.
Oh, it's lovely, isn't it?
In Edinburgh. I think I enjoyed that more than Westminster. And Westminster is definitely the grander scale. But St. Giles, you were able to get closer to things. You weren't being weren't in a flood of people. I don't know what they call it, where they sit in their funny little chairs, and all the knights of the Thistle.
Okay.
Room in St. Giles, which is the same as the Knights of the Garter in Westminster. That was really, really neat. And we were able to get up close and personal with it.
And it's very pretty. It's very pretty inside. It's. I've got some beautiful pictures actually inside St. Giles. I'll be in Edinburgh in a few months' time, so I shall go back in and get some more pictures and videos, because it's on the Royal Mile. It's an easy one to just pop in and have a look. Did you go to Edinburgh Castle when you were there? Did you?
We did not. That's the one thing she had done before in Edinburgh, and medieval fortresses are not our favorite. And we went to the Tower of London, so that kind of did it. But we stayed at the foot of the castle. We stayed in the Wild Apart hotels there. I figured since we were in a room together for 9 of our nights, I wanted to give us a little more space while we were in Edinburgh.
Yeah.
We actually didn't have to go to bed at 8:30 with mommy those few nights. But our room had a view of the castle. So every time we left our hotel, we got to walk past the castle. I wanted to see Holyrood House. We did, because I'd never done that, and we loved that. And the Abbey was even better. And we were there early. It was not raining. We got some stunning pictures and just loved wandering the garden. And she wanted to go to Botanical Garden while we were there, and we weren't sure we could make Kew happen, so we did the one in Edinburgh, which is also stunning.
It's lovely. The glass house there is just gorgeous, isn't it? Absolutely beautiful.
We were closed this year.
Oh no! Oh well. In fact, when I'm actually in Edinburgh in May, Holyrood House is shut for a couple of weeks. So my friend that I'm going with is absolutely gutted. I was like, oh no. Unfortunately, yeah, that can. Well, next time I'm making a list for you for next time, Amy, of things that you can add into your itinerary. Now you've mentioned that you did a few tours, and obviously I know you did that Golden Tours trip to Hampton Court and then Windsor Palace, and then you did the ceremony of the keys with walks. Did you do any other tours when you were there?
With walks, we did Westminster, which is stunning. I'd been there once before, and I knew that you couldn't really do it without a tour because there's just too many things to do. But it was crowded enough and overwhelming enough that my daughter just sort of waited and said, "Mom, go do your thing." That was supposed to be with the changing of the guard, which we had no interest in doing, having already had the lovely experience of being trapped in it earlier. And it is very neat and very enjoyable, but I didn't feel the need to do it twice. So the other tour we did was Cotswolds in a day, with GoCotswolds, and that was absolutely wonderful. Martin was a great tour guide, and it was a nice break from London.
It is. I've been out with Martin before. I was actually talking to Lisa tonight because we're doing an episode all about spring, and obviously I've got to talk about spring in the Cotswolds. So I'm talking about different places around the UK, but I was talking to Lisa last night, and her Cotswolds in a day tour, it's just fantastic, and it does give you a good taste of the Cotswolds.
I could live in Bybury. I don't know what I would do there, but it is just the prettiest little place on the planet. We got to see, we're standing there and there's just a swan peacefully swimming down the water. Just absolutely charming. And like I said, it was a nice break because we had done Saturday. We had walked from Westminster to all the way back to Kensington, and that was exhausting. And we did the Tower tour and everything. I think between 2 days we did probably about 22 miles. So
wow.
sitting on a bus and strolling through towns was lovely. And then the next day was Edinburgh. And I foolishly told her we were going to walk to the hotel because it was only about a third of a mile, but you don't understand that you're going uphill and then somehow uphill again to get down. I don't. And I kept counting the stairs because I needed to know in my head when I was going to get to the top because we'd done that staircase 4 times. And she's going, "What is wrong with you? Just don't make it worse." But we were staying at the bottom of Granny's green staircase. So every time we wanted to leave, we had to climb it. And although I liked being in the middle of everything, I think if I were to go back, I'd stay in Newtown.
I'm nodding vigorously because that tends to be that where we stay. We tend to stay in the new town, but then when you're going to go at the old town, you're going to have you've got the stairs and the uphill, so that's coming. And I think a lot of people don't necessarily understand that about Edinburgh. Like the new town is flat, the old town is up the hill. You're going up towards the castle because it's on the volcanic plug. Yes, so it's a lot of stairs, a lot of walking. It is lovely. I do love Edinburgh. I think it's such a beautiful city. And you did that kind of a very popular route is that kind of London. Often people stop off in York and then go up to Edinburgh. That's we hear that very often as it's a great way to get a kind of taste of both the capital cities, really, of England and Scotland. And did you do any day tours from Edinburgh, or did you kind of just base yourself in Edinburgh?
We stayed in Edinburgh. We were only there 2 full days.
Mm-hmm.
So the day we got there, we did the gardens, and I had booked McCarr's Mash Bar. I think I booked it 4 months out because that was the meal I wanted the very most while we were there. And it is honestly one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. I got my daughter to eat haggis, and we pretty much licked the bowl clean.
It's very good.
They have the best sticky toffee pudding we had, and we gave it a try pretty much anywhere we could find it. And good. I ordered a bottle of cider because I'm not a big drinker, and cider is probably one of the few things there I will drink. And I ordered a bottle because I didn't want a pint, not only... The bottles are pints, because here a bottle is about half that.
Right.
So because she ordered a pint, I'm like, oh, no, that's too much. Just bring me a bottle. I drank 2 of them. Holy Cross cider is the most delicious thing on earth. I've got a trip coming up to Boston, and I'm hoping to find it there because I know they import it to the East Coast of the U.S.
Oh, so you'll be good at treating yourself, hopefully.
That was... that meal was, as a matter of fact, we brought the leftovers home and ate lunch in the hotel later in the trip because couldn't waste a drop. The table next to us was 3 gentlemen that ordered, because there's basically 4 main entrees on the menu and my daughter got the bangers and mash, and I got the lamb, and then we got the haggis, neeps, and tatties as the appetizer. And we asked them at the end, because another one I think is roast chicken, and we asked them, and they're like, what was the best? And they said, we think it's the lamb and the haggis, neeps, and tatty. I was like, okay, that's what we thought too. So we got the best of the world.
We had both. I hope you mentioned them, you should say, because I don't know how many people listen to the podcast and go to Macca's Mash Bar. I keep saying, I think we should get a free haggis and neeps and tatties next time I go, because the amount of people that go, because I just love it. I really, and also they do a small portion as well, which is really nice. So it's the appetizer.
Yeah. And we hated it.
Yeah.
We've been to Scotland twice. We have friends with a house in John O'Groats. And when we were living in Austria, it was a short flight. So we'd go over and visit. So we'd explored most of Scotland. We've done the Highlands. We've done Northern Scotland. But we'd only done that little brief visit to Edinburgh. And now that my daughter was older, I knew she'd enjoy the history more. I did subject her to quite a few TV series period TV series. Like we watched Young Victoria, Mary Queen of Scots to sort of delve into the history of it, because that adds to it for me. And we actually got to go into a room where we know Mary Queen of Scots was, which was fascinating, where David Rizzio was shot.
It's lovely. I think that's a thing in the UK. You're walking in the footsteps of history. So I've just actually been to the cinema to watch Hamnet. Now I've been obviously at Stratford-upon-Avon millions of times, but the excitement I feel even now actually having watched Hamnet and just putting some of the history of things that happened to Shakespeare. I knew his son had died, but I don't know if you've seen the movie, but you haven't. You really need to go and see it. It's just take tissues because it's very, very sad. But I just love that. And actually, though apparently it wasn't filmed in Stratford-upon-Avon, but I don't. It doesn't matter. It still gives that, that's where Shakespeare's from. So it's just amazing. And I actually just did a podcast a few months ago all about jet setting, because everybody's want to go over because of Bridgerton, or there's the new movie Wuthering Heights that's out. There's a new Sense and Sensibility movie. Obviously, Downton Abbey is so popular, so everybody kind of wants to go and check out where these are being filmed, and you can walk around these castles and houses and the moors in Yorkshire where these things are done, and actually see the places, which is lovely. I'm going to slightly pivot because you mentioned about food, so I have to ask you about obviously you enjoyed your haggis, neeps and tatties, but what else did you try on your trip that you really enjoyed? What other places would you recommend to go and eat?
We went to Borough Market, and we did it on a Saturday morning, which we know is a terrible idea. But we got there as Ginger Pig was opening. That is the best sausage roll I have ever eaten in my life. We, of course, then had to hit Humble Crumble. And then we just wandered through the stalls with samples and some pastries in there. Somebody made a mushroom pate that was one of the most delicious things I have ever eaten in my life. We got the viral creme brulee donut from Bread Ahead. We spent a lot of time in Pret for breakfast because it was easy just to grab a sandwich and go. While we were in Edinburgh, we went to Blackfriars Bobby Pub. We discovered fried halloumi, which is not something they do here. And it's a sin that we don't have that here.
Actually, it's really interesting because we just had an episode with Becky, actually, from Devouters, and she was talking about her favourite foods, and she loves halloumi fries. And actually, I got a message from somebody saying they had to look it up because they didn't know what it was. Because you guys don't have it, you need to get them because they're just delicious.
We do. There's something wrong there. So then we got them every opportunity we could. And sausage rolls aren't done here, but you hear people talking about British food being bad, and it's everything that I think is beautiful. I mean, I guess if you're obsessed with salads, it's probably not the best food, but you can put gravy on it, I'll probably eat it.
Yeah. And I mean, we do the best, I don't know, like sausage rolls and pies, and I love Scotch eggs. I don't know if you had a Scotch egg when you were there. I absolutely love Scotch eggs. All of those things. Marks and Spencer's food hall.
I did that at Fortnum & Mason. I had a Scotch egg, and I didn't particularly enjoy it, but I found out 48 hours later I had COVID.
Yeah.
So, and I've had Scotch eggs before, and it is something I normally enjoy. But we got a Knickerbocker Glory there, which is also something Americans had never heard of, and that was the most fun ever. They're in the Harry Potter books.
Yes.
So we were like, well, what is that? Well, let's find out. It's on this menu.
I see. Yeah, grew up having Knickerbocker Glories and and Scotch eggs and all of those delicious foods that I'm looking forward to having when I'm back. What about? I know you mentioned your Sunday roast at Hawksmoor, so and I do recommend that when people ask me about Sunday roast. Did you have any other Sunday roasts when you were in London?
We did not. We had considered going to one in Notting Hill, but we were ill that day, so we kept things kind of calm. Another big meal we had was afternoon tea at Fortnum & Mason, which was absolutely lovely. I have a huge number of allergies. My daughter has most of the same allergies. So the manager actually brought all of our food out and managed it and checked in. And she was very charming. And she and my daughter hit it off and spent most of the tea visiting. She made our champagne glasses were topped off at all times. The food was lovely. The experience is even better. So we were looked at many, many teas. And the other one I'd considered seriously was the Shard. But I knew if we were on that side of town, we were going to be walking a lot and we'd be in trainers. And I know that that's not allowed there. And I was not going to carry around a pair of shoes just to make them happy. Fortnum & Mason, although we did dress up for it, would have allowed that. But we spent so much time there visiting with the manager that we closed the place because every time we tried to leave, she'd fill our champagne again. So we didn't get to do any shopping. So the next day when I had planned on going to Notting Hill and possibly a Sunday roast, we went back to Fortnum & Mason to do some shopping. And spent a couple of hours there. That was just wandering through everything. I came home with so much. We each had a different tea with each course at tea, and we came home with all 6 teas.
Oh, wow.
And my daughter, one of them was such a smoky tea that it's been banished to her house. She's not allowed to make it at my house. It smells like a campfire.
Oh, that is cool though, and it's nice. Like, I don't know, I think trying different foods and they just all add to the experience as well, don't they? Did you try any of the? Because we often talk to people as well about like doing meal deals, because they're a great way when you're kind of here, there, and everywhere. Did you try any of those?
We did that. We got a couple of those for sandwiches for like train travel. We did sort of breakfast meal deals in the mornings. I love a bacon bap. I don't know why we don't do that here either. Although they kept asking if we wanted ketchup or brown sauce, and we kept saying no. We were just eating them dry. And then like toward the end of the class, I was like, we're going to try the brown sauce. And oh my goodness, that was a game changer. That was fantastic.
I was going to say, you have to have brown sauce. Now, I don't know. In the UK, like brown sauce, and I'm probably going to have British people who are going to shout me down for this, but brown sauce is more northern and tomato ketchup is more a southern thing. So I'm from the north, so I would have brown sauce on my bacon sandwich. Doug, now he's Midland, so he could kind of go either way, but he will have tomato ketchup. It's really funny. So you'll find more people in the south will go for the ketchup and more people from the north. But again, I can hear British people going, well, that's not true. I always have ketchup and I'm from Newcastle or whatever. But yeah, I was never really a big ketchup fan when I was a kid. We always had brown sauce, but didn't necessarily have ketchup. But yes, absolutely have the brown sauce. It's really good.
We were really disappointed we hadn't figured that out earlier, but there were lots of breakfast sandwiches. Something I ran into, I'm allergic to most artificial sweeteners. And in the UK, even the non-diet versions of things are half sugar, half artificial sweetener. So my daughter would hand me a Dr. Pepper and I'd take a sip and I'm like, there's artificial sweetener. And then she said, you're crazy. And then we'd read the label. So we were actually flipping things over and looking for the highest calorie count because that's how we were avoiding artificial sweetener. So I mostly stuck to water and orange juice because those were the safe ones. And we both, with all of our allergies, I wanted to do a food tour, but there's no way to do that when you've got to provide a list a mile long. I think most of the restaurants were fantastic about allergies. We went to Dishoom 3 times. We went when we had our long wander and we spent an evening in Kensington Gardens after having walked 14 miles. And we were near the one in South Kensington. So we went there. At the best lamb samosas I've ever had. They make them with phyllo dough instead of the usual pastry. Their chicken biryani is fantastic. Their ruby chicken, absolutely amazing. And then they gave us, as we were leaving, they apologized because they had us write our allergies on the menu, circle the things we were considering, and then they actually took it to the kitchen and had the chef evaluate whether we could eat them. Well, we had wanted some bread with a dip, and we couldn't have the dip because it had eggplant in it. So as an apology, they brought us vouchers for a free meal.
Oh, that's amazing.
So while we were in Edinburgh, we went for breakfast. Which was also amazing. And then my daughter ordered chili pepper on hers because we come from New Mexico. We're home of the green chili. We have Hatch green chili. We're famous for it. An Indian green chili is a very different thing. She touched it to her tongue, and then we had some mango lassi to make the pain go away. But that put us right next to Paddington Bear, so we got to see our second Paddington Bear there because the St. Andrew's Square is right next to the British Gym there.
Yeah, that's my photo that I use that one and me and Paddington travel all around the UK, and that's from that St. Andrew's Square picture because it's a perfect one if you get. And of course you went and saw Paddington at Paddington Station, who was named after.
we had to go to. We couldn't find it when we were there in the morning. I don't know how. And I finally just Googled where is Paddington Bear at Paddington Station. They're like on platform 1. Like, makes sense. But we got to I took Doug a little too seriously when he said get there early. His idea of early and mine are probably very different. We were everywhere at least an hour early. And they were early morning trains too. So if you're taking a train at 5:45 in the morning, we were getting there as soon as they opened. But that gave us time to figure out where we were going to need to be. And then we went to Pret or we went and got a breakfast meal deal, and we sat and ate and people watched. And when we came back in through King's Cross, coming back from Edinburgh, one of the things I wanted to see was St. Pancras. So we walked over and wandered St. Pancras. And then we had one of our most pleasant taxi rides from there, although he took us to the wrong hotel. Self-corrected. Our only other mishap is we said we wanted to go to Borough Market, and they dropped us off at a Primark on a high street not far from Kensington. And the guy kept arguing with us, telling us this is where we need to be. And I'm like, okay. So we got out, and I bought my favorite sweater at Primark.
Oh, well, it was meant to be. Meant to be, Amy. So you were in London, you went to Edinburgh, and then you went back to London. So did you stay in the same accommodation in London both times, or did you change? You did, yeah.
I looked at some closer to like Temple Church, but I was so in love with the one that we booked the first time I wanted to stay, and they kept 2/3 of our luggage for us.
Perfect. That's a really smart move as well, and I say that to often people: if you're going to be starting and ending in the same, and then leave, if you don't need to take your luggage, don't take it. Especially since you had a lot.
Yes, we had a lot. We are not light packers, but the staff at the hotel could not do enough for us. They were just incredibly charming.
So, do you want to share the name of the hotel?
It was the Gore Hotel.
Yeah,
and it's on, I believe, Queensgate, and it's right. It's on the same block right down the street from the entrance to where Hyde Park and Kensington Gardens meet up. So you walk across the street and you look right, and you're looking at the Royal Albert Hall and the Royal Albert Memorial. And one of the things we wanted to do was find the bench with Alan Rickman's name on it, which is right where those two gardens. That's where we spent a lot of time sitting, feeding our favorite squirrel.
Did he call him Alan?
And then we managed to, and it was a very pregnant squirrel, so not so much an Alan. And then we went to breakfast at the brasserie at the Sky Garden first thing in the morning, so we could get a nice view of the Sky Garden without it being crowded. Mm-hmm. And while we were there, we went to the church ruins, St. Dunstan's in the east, and to Leadenhall Market, which we had all to ourselves.
Yeah, perfect.
Which was nice.
Perfect.
That was as close as we were getting to Harry Potter. We were planning on going to the Harry Potter studio until I realized she was going because I wanted to go, and I was going because I thought she wanted to go, and instead we went to the Cotswolds that day.
Perfect. How did you get up to Morton and Marsh? Did you take the train from Paddington?
Train from Paddington, which from where we were staying was very easy.
Yeah, again, that's a good tip. If you plan to go out with GoCotswolds, do exactly the same. You just stay where you were, which is perfect, and then head straight up to Morton and Marsh from Paddington, and then hop on their coach and go out for the day with GoCotswolds. That's really cool. Now I have to ask you what you bought when you were over there, because you mentioned you. I'm sure you went with. Did you go with a little bit of space in those suitcases?
Not as much as we could have used. We came home with 5 mugs, a half a dozen tea towels, a bunch of magnets, lots of tea and cookies. We both went clothes shopping there. I came home with 3 new cardigans. But we went to TK Maxx and H&M, which are funny because we have those here. But she came home with a fabulous dress and jacket, which were ironically American designers. But I think I came back with 20 shopping bags from different museums and things. I could use a different one every week just because they're happy memories.
And the museum shops, aren't they just special?
The ones from the V&A, the shopping bags from the V&A are gorgeous. And then we did buy lots of souvenirs. I think we bought the most souvenirs from a museum shop from the National Gallery in London. But,
yeah, I try to avoid them if I can, unless I know that the V&A is my. The museum shops are just fabulous. They really are. They're very, very good. So, and I would say if you want souvenirs, to be honest, the museum shops are probably the best places to look, because you're going to get nicer stuff rather than some of the shops can have a little bit more tackier stuff, but the actual museum shops tend to be pretty nice things that you can get. I
think our biggest souvenirs, we did go to the Islander purse store and make purses.
I've actually written a whole article about that to review that, because I've been asked so many times about that. So I've got a whole article on the website. So if you want to check out what I made when I went and have a look at my bag, because everybody wants to do it. It's so much fun. I'm thinking I might go back and make a lot. I've got the smaller bag. I might actually make the backpack. I'm thinking when I go in May, because I just really enjoyed it. It's just the hardest thing is picking out what you want. It's like,
we both came back with extra flaps and straps for ours so that we can swap it out.
Yeah, that's good.
But we, that was the one thing she added to the itinerary. She's like, I know you've got us down to the minute. Can you fit this in? I said, well, it happens to be right next to the Museum of Scotland. And she loves cemeteries, graveyards. So we went to several while we were there. We went to see, I think it's Clarice's grave while we were in Edinburgh. And then we went, of course, we had to go see Greyfriars Bobby and wander that. And I have a bunch of fantastic pictures of her standing next to stones that have Elizabeth on it. It's her name. And we are descendant from directly from King James IV. So she actually found one with the name Elizabeth Stewart on it.
Oh, wow.
Which is a beautiful picture of her.
That's amazing. It sounds like, honestly, you just had the best trip.
We did.
That Elizabeth also enjoyed it as much as you did, which is great. I just love it. Mother and daughter trip it's just so special when you can do those trips. I'm going to try and get my daughter to do a trip with me now. She's nearly 30 and she's studying at the minute, which is really difficult. But any of the trips that we do are always so special together. So I'm actually taking my mum away on a daughter-mum trip when I'm back in May, and it's so special, and they're just lovely memories to make, aren't they?
They are. And it was funny because she kept telling me I was sick, and I'm like, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. And then we're looking at the pictures of the last 2 days, and I'm looking at them going, I'm literally gray. And she said, I can Photoshop that.
Yeah,
but that was
rosy cheeks.
We would wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and head over to feed the squirrels because it was right across the street. So that was just truly lovely. And I had wanted to make it to more of the gardens, and we couldn't. And Notting Hill didn't happen. Greenwich was a maybe we couldn't do. And then Kew Gardens was definitely ruled out because the weekend we wanted to go was when they had the tube strike.
As I say, it just means, Amy, that you have to go again.
I have to go back. But we probably needed that time to rest. The tube strike might have been my fault. Maybe God made it happen so that I'd get to sleep.
Yeah, I honestly, I often say, is like when we're helping people plan, is like try and give yourself some downtime, because if you don't give it to yourself, eventually you will need it. So it'll just happen because you do need to have, because there's a lot, and it's busy and it's great and it's exciting and you want to do it. But I don't know, sometimes it could get a bit physically a bit more difficult than you expect. I mean, I should be doing more walking than I am now just to prepare myself, because I just know how much walking I'll be doing when I'm in London. Now, Amy, you listen to the podcast, so you know the question I always ask at the end, and that would be what would be your one tip that you'd share with anybody who's listening to your trip and listen to the things that you did and thinking, I want to go to the UK, I've not been before, but what would be the tip that you would share with them?
Pick a hotel in an area that you're going to enjoy being in. That was one of our best things. The fact that we were right by the museums, we were right across from the park. So even if we had made plans across town the day, when we got back mid-afternoon to regroup, there were still things that we could do that we really enjoyed that weren't big outings. And South Kensington is a fantastic little neighborhood. I don't like noise. There was no traffic noise in our hotel. We did learn to watch out for bicyclists, and crossing streets are a little challenging, but it was quiet. It was peaceful. It was elegant. And every time we went to the tube station, we had to walk past the Natural History Museum and the V&A, and it's stunning. So pick some place that you want to be in, not just because it's convenient to other things.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I think look at what you want to do and where it fits in with what you're interested in doing and seeing. Absolutely. Well, thanks so much, Amy, for coming on and sharing your trip report with us. It's really good to catch up and hear your enthusiasm and your love for art. Clearly, you just had an amazing trip, which is always lovely to hear. And I can't wait. I'm sure you'll be going back at some point. Maybe we'll get to meet up at some point when I'm back and you might be over there. You never know, which is always really good. I always love to catch up and have a cup of tea. We won't have any Victoria sponge cake, don't worry, but can have a cup of tea and a chat.
There's always the scones. If you do another trip in 2027, I might join in on that, do my first solo travel.
Yeah, you never know. You never know. I'm actually meeting up in May with Melissa Jones, who I met in October 2020. I'm going to think of the years now. 2024. She was traveling solo, and she sent me a message and said, "Do you want to come and do some of this stuff with me?" So I went and met her. We went to Highclere together. We did the London and Edinburgh tour with walks together. We went and had Sunday roast, and I'm actually meeting her when she flies in May, and we're going off to Edinburgh together, having some time in Edinburgh. Then we're going down to London, and we've got a week in London. We're doing all sorts of things that I've got planned. We actually got Chelsea Flower show together before she flies out. So it's just great. So you might not be solo because I might join you.
Thank you for everything you do. You really did give us the resources we needed for an amazing, amazing trip. Doug put my worries at ease about the train travel, which we had done some of in Europe, but I wasn't responsible then. So I watched his videos because he was like getting to the train station and getting to the platform. I'm like, I can do that now. So it's wonderful resources made the travel so much more pleasurable.
Oh, thank you. It's lovely to hear. Well, he's working hard on more and more YouTube videos. So if you're listening and want to go and check out Doug's train stuff, it's on YouTube. I'm hoping to get some stuff on my own also on YouTube. But I think we're a great combination because he can because I know a lot of people get a bit stressed about the traveling by train. So he's got that wealth of experience and knowledge. So I just think we're a great team together at UK Travel Planning. That's
absolutely.
For sure. Thanks again so much, Amy. I'm just going to end the podcast by just letting everybody know that you can find some pictures from Amy's trip and links to the hotel that she stayed at, and I'll get the one for Edinburgh as well, and any of the places that she's mentioned in the show notes, which are at uktravelplanning.com/episode 194. If you would like to sponsor us, which Amy kindly does every week, you can do that from $3 a month. It's not very much, not even a cup of coffee. But it helps us tick over and helps us produce the podcast every week and help you plan your trips. But as always, until next week, I will say from myself and from Amy, happy UK travel planning. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the UK Travel Planning Podcast. As always, show notes can be found at uktravelplanning.com. If you've enjoyed the show, why not leave us feedback via text or a review on your favourite podcast app? We love to hear from you, and you never know, you may receive a shout out in a future episode. But as always, that just leaves me to say, until next week, happy UK travel planning.